building. I can never remember the name of it. If only it was written on the side. I really wish it was. The Civic Opera building was completed in 1930, or 1929.
Oh my God! Hey.
Believe it or not, it was the home of the Civic Opera. I know,
Wow.
shocker. But if you look up, this building looks like a big armchair. This is one of the first modern mixed-use buildings, and it was really needed because this opera house opened in 1929, just a few days after the Great Depression started. They got through 6 shows of Aida at the Civic Opera House, and then closed their doors until after World War II. The only thing that kept this building afloat, Field Park, my pun, was those offices above it. This is quite the good view, good photo opportunity right here, I will say. They call this building Innes's Throne. Samuel Innes was a General Electric manager who was moved to Chicago. He had some problems with the people that lived in New York, so he set his building facing away from New York to the west, which I just find kind of interesting.
All right, we turning around, y'all. We
So
heading
to the
back.
left, you can see a building that has this bridge structure up on the top. This is the Boeing building. The Boeing building. Boeing, this is still technically Boeing's headquarters, although they've moved to Virginia. They occupy like 1 or 2 offices here, I'm told.
hell is
in order
this?
to still call this their building. But if you look at this building, there's this bridge structure. In order to demonstrate their engineering prowess, Boeing supports this building from the top instead of from the bottom. Again, this is because this entire side of the river is occupied by rail lines, so they can't find the proper pilings to put this shorter structure. Instead, they cantilever it from the taller structure. So in some ways, people say that it was built from the top down rather than bottom up. I think it's kind of funny. On the left-hand side of our boat, you can see all these balconies on this red brick building. They put those balconies there, expecting no one to ever build a structure to block their view. But of course, Jim Getch did just that, found a way to block these people's views. And you gotta feel bad for them. To our immediate right, you see a very rare brick building. This is the former site, way back in the day, of the Guam Hotel. This is where in 1860 hosted the Republican National Convention, where they would nominate their nominee for president. And then he chose in 1860 a politician by the name of Abraham Lincoln. He later won the election, of course. And his road to the White House stood right here in the city of Chicago. There's a little plaque on the street outside. Commemorate it. As we return to this point, I'm just drawing attention to this behemoth Art Deco building right here in front of us. This is the Merchandise Mart, the one with the green roof. The Merchandise Mart was completed in 1930, and it was the largest building in the world when it was finished. Who needed such a big building other than Marshall Field? Marshall Field was a catalog retailer. I think Jeff Bezos and Amazon, but in 1930, he sold everything from matches to entire prefabricated. As soon as people moved in, they had to move out.
I'm
No
need
one
for
was
them to
buying
fix
stuff.
that over there.
So the building shuttered its doors and was closed for several years. It was sold for essentially back taxes in 1945 to a one Mr. Joseph B. Kennedy of Massachusetts, father of future President John F. Kennedy. The Kennedys were great stewards of the building for 50 years before they sold it in 1998 for over $605 million. Not a bad return on investment. Pretty savvy. Of course, Kennedys are up there. Because Joe Kennedy was apparently the biggest whiskey importer before Prohibition. And Green Walls, Green Bridge after this was completed. They did a pretty good job of lighting it. I never noticed if I didn't point it out. But of course I did. And a scurrilous curve. On the left side, I want to talk a little bit more about the city towers. These corn cob buildings. You might have guessed that this architect has some sort of psychological problem when it comes to right angles. You'd be right. The architect Bertrand Goldberg was quoted as saying there are no right angles in nature, so there should be no right angles in my buildings. But like all good psychological problems, it of course stems from his childhood, or his parents, at least architecturally speaking. Bertrand Goldberg was one of many students of the great, be laid to be, Ludwig Vanderohe. So, if this building on the left is Luke Skywalker and its sister tower is Princess Leia, and the building to the right of them both is Darth Vader. That is their father, tall, dark, and handsome, clad in black. That is the AMA Plaza, formerly the IBM building, the last building constructed by the late, the great, the Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. If you've never heard of Mies van der Rohe, now you have, but you've definitely seen his work. If you're looking at this building and thinking, so what? It's just a big black box. I have one of those in my hometown. That's where the city council meets or something. It's usually one of a building like that. Exactly. That's how important Mies van der Rohe was. He's the guy that coined the phrase "less is more," or at least popularized it. And you can see it in his buildings. Mies believed that a building should be able to fit in no matter where in the world you put it. And this is his final construction. He said less is more, that the material is the message. As such, his buildings use three materials: steel, glass, and stone. In fact, it's so ordered the lines in the pavement actually line up with the building itself. He's that fastidious. In fact, he came here in 1971, shortly before his death, to make sure that this building was properly. It's my 12-hour on. This building might look like a 1930s Art Deco skyscraper, but I draw your attention up to the midpoint of the building where you see it's upside down L's. This belies the decade this building was actually built in. Those are not buttresses, as some will say. No. Those are shoulder pads. This building was built in the 80s. Thanks for joining us aboard, little lady. Please remain in your seats as we come into dock.
Oh my God!
I encourage you to find a seat, just as
Shit
there might be some bumps and jostles as we come into dock. We don't want anyone
Bumps
falling
and
off.
oh,
You've all been a wonderful crowd here. This is my last tour of the day. It's been absolutely wonderful. Please take a look around, make sure you've gotten all your trash, any refuse, anything that you might leave behind. The crew would really appreciate it if you picked it up for us. If you enjoyed this tour, my name is Andy. I'll be on shore to answer any questions, give recommendations, anything to make your time here in Chicago that much more enjoyable. If you didn't enjoy this tour, my name is not Andy, it's Rich, and you can leave reviews accordingly. Let's give it up for Captain Diamond, Captain Jorge, and the rest of the crew for giving us such a smooth ride. JR's been here all day,
yeah, y'all
giving
got
us,
me back here.
doing the actual work, keeping this boat afloat, and Alexi's been downstairs doing the real actual work and keeping us all hydrated. Thanks again for joining us aboard Little Lady and First Lady Cruises. We look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Alright, we back at the dock. Gate 4. Alright, take us in, Captain. We almost up. Oh, I'm so glad we made it back here safe. If y'all would have saw the ride going out there in all that water, you would have thought it was over with. We in there.
behalf of First Lady Cruises, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Finish them or throw them out. Your evening.
Thank you. Enjoy your night. That was fun.